whoever and wherever you are.
You're listening to We Hate Small Talk
With Cindy
and Emin. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of We Hate Small Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in, and today we have a very, very special episode because our dear friend Anthony Tan agreed to be a guest, and he's our very first guest, so we are very excited to have him. And he is the MBTI expert in our friend group. And if you guys have never heard about MBTI, we've linked a 16 personalities quiz in our description. So before you listen to this episode, if you have time to take that quiz, then you'll probably get a better sense of what we're talking about in this episode. We have a lot to unpack, so thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy.
So I think in our friend group, we actually talk about like this personality and psychology bit a lot, right? And none of us have actually extensively studied or read up on it, except for our resident expert, our great friend and, occasional resident house hobo from when Liam and I lived together. His name is Anthony Tan, and we have him today on the podcast to talk about MBTIs.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think the first question is please introduce yourself and why are you an MBTI expert?
Sure. I'm Anthony. Went to school with these two. That's about it. That's all you need to know. Why did I get into MBTI? I think I've always been really into psychology, and with psychology there's a lot of kind of fake pop psychology, which is really interesting, and MBTI kind of fits a little bit in that. But then if you dig into it, it makes more sense than you think. And it came from, it came from this guy called Carl Jung, right? Who was really respected, close after Freud. So yeah, my whole life, I guess if you want to get psychological about it, I had to move a lot as a kid, which means always having to meet new people and new places. So, getting to know people in a academic way helped me interact with them socially, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess this is just that crutch for your social anxiety, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe just starting off, Anthony, do you want to introduce your MBTI and tell the audience what you think about it, if you think it's accurate, the descriptions on 16 personalities, or if there's other websites that you like to use or other resources for MBTIs?
Sure. MBTI Myers-Briggs. So Myers and Briggs were two, I think it was a mom and daughter team, and they really analyzed some of Jung's writings to make it more accessible to the public. So you get 4 letters, and there's 2 choices per letter, so that's 16, I think 16 choices, 16 combinations possible. And so I guess mine, it's a bit of a trick question. So I'm generally ENTP, which is the debater. And you can go to 16personalities.com and do the test. It takes about 10 minutes, and it's pretty good, I'd say. It's the ubiquitous MBTI thing. And yeah, they each have a little description, and you have a bunch of famous figures. That's part of it. And yeah, so generally it's that. But I would say I switch between 3 of them, but we can get into that a bit later. So that's me, ENTP. And should we go through each letter breakdown?
Yeah, let's do that.
So you can look this up. I don't know if I'll get it perfect, but the first letter is EI, extrovert, introvert. So generally extrovert people who get a lot of energy from being around people, like you two and me too. Just people. I is people who like to generally spend time alone or can be alone more, get their energy that way. The next letter is N or S. N stands for intuitive. S stands for, I think it's observation or sensory. So N tends to be people who like to think of the big picture, right? And they're very out there, probably more creative. S is people who are very detail-oriented, very direct, immediate, and that's kind of how you think and communicate. The next letter is T or F, and that tends to be how you make decisions, so feeling or thinking. I think that's self-explanatory. Thinking is more logic-based, feeling is definitely more emotional-based, meaning-based. And then last one is P or J. P stands for perceiving, J stands for judgment, and that goes about your how your brain works too, and how you organize you are. So J people have their life together, whereas P people just make our own way, very unorganized.
I almost wonder if you can guess our signs right now based on how well you know us. Like, I think we're pretty close friends, like you with me and Cindy.
I
So I
think.
want to see almost. I mean, it's been a couple months. No, but I think like I want to see if you can actually like guess what we are currently, and I think that we'll get into like what we were in the past too, because I also have like 3 signs that I have identified with.
Cool. Well, it's been, I think I knew yours from a few years ago, but yeah, I can do it. This is my one party trick. Not really people who know MBTI. All the business kids know it. Okay, who do you want to start with?
Do the one you're more confident in.
Confident in? Sure, we'll start with Cindy because Yimin makes it seems like she changed a lot from work. So we'll start with Cindy. Cindy's definitely used to be an E. I don't know if you spend if you've been spending a lot of time alone, maybe you're more of an I. I'm gonna go ahead and say E though. Yeah. And then we get S and N. I'll go ahead and say S just because even though you're very creative, you're it's like in a very direct way, like art, and you also, can I swear in this?
Yes.
You're like a very no BS kind of person, so it's more direct that way. You're very in tune with like, like things, physical things and objects and like aesthetic.
Okay.
T or F? This is hard. I think T because you look at things in a very rational way. You're always, whenever we talk about like the future and stuff, you're always, planning very rationally, and not really considering your own feelings maybe. Is that too much? And then lastly, PJ. I think you have your J moments, but generally P. So I would say ESTP. Okay, so I think for quarantine, you might have been a J actually because you were telling me all these things you were doing, the hobbies. You lived on a schedule, all this stuff. But with the school year coming back, I think you reverted back to a P. So I'd say ESTP.
Okay. You were like scary close because I tested myself a week ago and I was an ESTJ. So I think you were, but yeah, I typically am an ESTP, but I think I'm so jaded from school projects that I started judging more.
But what about like at home in your personal life? Because I think each time you do it in a context, it changes.
I think probably my natural default is ESTP, which is the entrepreneur. Literally, I was like born to be a business kid. But yeah, I think usually I'm ESTP, but then when it comes to school, I'm ESTJ. That driver personality. Okay, do Eamon. I'm excited to see this because you were guessing and I was like, did he know?
Yemen. Okay, I think this is tough because I know work has been like really big in your brain recently for the last 3 months.
Okay, I'm excited for you to guess my 16 personalities because I remember when we went to Costa Rica and we were in the airport, you had guessed mine. I don't know if you remember, but we were like so sleep deprived and like I think you got it really accurate that time. So I want to see if like your party trick still works.
I think you're definitely a J. Like you can't not be a J during work if you're so busy with work now. So that there's J. We'll go backwards. F or T. I still think you're an F. Like I still think you care a lot about like the kind of meaning of things, and when you make decisions, they are rational, but you also do consider like how you'll feel towards them. So F in general. Maybe not in work. Maybe you're a T at work. N or S. This is a tough one. I think you're like pretty close because you do both. But I also think just the nature of like being at home or like doing work all the time, maybe you don't get to think big picture. You have to look at the details all the time. So S. And then lastly, I think maybe you've made the shift to I recently. So I would say just because, it's like we're less social these days with COVID. And yeah, you've always been very retrospective. Is that the word? No, reflectful. Introspective. Yeah. So I'm gonna say ISFJ.
That is very interesting. I've never gotten an I before, but you were on a very good trajectory. Okay, before we got to the I and the E, it was great. Honestly, before we got to the S, it was great. But I think like a lot of the things that you said hit like spot on from like the transition that was like in 2019 to now. But my actual is ENFJ, and I think like my E has gone down for sure. So my E right now is way like 25% lower than it used to be. And then the N, I think I'm still like very much aligned with what you were saying, like thinking big picture or whatever, but I can definitely see why like work made you think I was an S, and I can see myself being an S sometimes too. Yeah, F, feeling, I'm still very much feeling. And then judging, yeah, I think I'm very heavily judging now, which is very interesting because I used to be a P in that department. So very good. Like, I'm very impressed by the skill that you have. And I think in terms of categorizing people into these, like, do you think that it's helped you understand people better?
I think in terms of like communication, it helps because then you can meet people kind of where they like to do. And then you can kind of predict where you'll have conflict in like a team setting or even like a friendship. So yeah, definitely. Because sometimes people will just like won't see eye to eye on certain things, like especially the NS divide, and same with the JP divide. You know, like when we went for traveling, right? Like I didn't really plan a lot, and you were very ultra planning, so we kind of had to meet in the middle there. But yeah, there's that, and I think also it has more scientific credibility than like the critics think, because a lot of these map onto the Big Five, which is the most accurate scientific measurement for personality, and it's like 5 letters, and it's all about the language we use to describe personality, and so each letter comes with a bunch of different aspects of it. So you could be extroverted but hate people and just be really assertive. So like, Cindy, I'm just looking at you. Like,
Literally
you don't
me.
have a super friendly, gregarious person, or like I'm very friendly, I'd say, but I'm not gregarious. Like I hate big crowds. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like I also relate to that. Like I would say like I hate big crowds too. Like I like interacting with people on like a 1 or 2 people kind of basis. And going back to what we were talking about, our signs changing throughout the years, I'm interested to know like how you have evolved and like how you guys have changed. Maybe we can start off with Anthony.
I definitely think like when I did it in high school, I kept getting ENTP, which is just the debater. You know, I like debating. But I think the two changes, the two kind of spreading directions, were ENTJ and ENFP. ENTJ is the commander, and ENFP is the campaigner. So I guess a lot of the friends I've made, including but generally not the Ivy friends, are like very, very like super kind and like fun, friendly people, and also ENFPs. And so you tend to attract, this is interesting, you tend to attract people that are similar to you in the Myers-Briggs. Like if you look at some of your closest friends, they will like naturally be very similar to you. Like I have very few S friends, which is like not a bad thing. Like they're precious. Yes, indeed. ENFP, just because like when people are really kind of like wholesome and like kind of spiritual, that's a very ENFP vibe, or INFJ, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely the people surrounding me have pushed me to become more ENFP. I'm definitely way less keen, more happy-go-lucky, more laid back than even you guys met me in first year.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yes.
Wait, is that true? He's less keen?
Oh my God. When I first met Anthony, I think, okay, this is also really interesting because I think when we first met each other, I didn't realize how keen you were because we met kind of on a one-on-one setting, and we had a very deep heart-to-heart, cried a little, and like that type of vibe. So I didn't see the keen side until a little later, and especially in like corporate or like that type of setting. Like I feel like that's where you exuded the most.
Okay, because I remember Anthony and I met at a networking event. So I guess that just shows how keen we used to both be, or we are now. But I think my first impression of him was more so like just chill and like friendly and willing to like talk to new people. Because I remember like Anthony, you were like super open when you were talking with me, and I don't know, I feel like you've gotten more keen because you've told me more about like your startup, and like we did Ivy together, so like I really like knew how keen you were in school. But like maybe before, when I met you, we didn't have any like classes necessarily together, and the ones that we did have were like poli-sci classes, so we just like talked, that I didn't see your keenness come to play.
I think it's still there, but it's less like I don't know, it's less like corporate.
I think the biggest change is that you've channeled that energy into something you enjoy. So it's less of that like gross keenness and more of that like admirable keenness.
Definitely. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
He's so uncomfortable. He's like, how do I take this?
Okay, Anthony, Yeah, we were friends with you when you were a keener then, and we're still friends now. So we knew you. We know your roots.
Yeah. So you think you've gone less keen too, Yimin?
Yeah, for sure. Like in grade 12 or grade 11 when I took this, I consistently got ENTJ. And I think like back then I was like pretty intense, and like I feel like ENTJ is known just to be like kind of just like my way or the highway, like not listening to other people. Like I think like throughout university I like learned to like settle down, know my place in the world, listen to people, like all of that. And even though I still like now have reverted to like a J, I feel like that's because of work. And I hope that I'm more chill and less keen, but I don't know. Please confirm or let me know.
I think you've gotten so involved in so many like nonprofit and extracurricular stuff that is, not always just like business or corporate. So like that seems to tie with the F side. And then I think our group of friends is like very down to earth because it's really easy to get caught up in status games. So I think, we've all gone through the public education system. We're all kind of like immigrant, Asian, keeners. And so there's a huge push to like get good grades and, the next status item, which whether that's like a nice job or all these things. But like once you go through them and see other people struggling, I think you kind of get a sense of what is real and not real, and like what is more authentic and not authentic. So you get a bit more confidence in yourself and where you want to go. Yeah, so I think we're just like less outwardly keen because we're just kind of sick of that maybe.
Yeah, I think we've like all three of us have definitely mellowed out like 100%, but that internal drive and motivation is still there. It's just not maybe portrayed as outwardly, but I think all of us still have that hustle mentality, right? Like it's like we're just hustling for things that are worthwhile to us now. It's just that's the only difference.
I think we all like consciously surround ourselves with people who might not be like the typical business kid because like we want to essentially like not okay, I don't know if this is going to make us sound like worse, but like keep us grounded. Is that bad to say?
No, well, as someone that was very humbled by the university experience, I feel like keeping my feet on the ground is something I definitely like think about now.
I agree. Like, I think we've all gotten less keen. Like, how has your personalities changed, Cindy, throughout the years?
I consistently, from I guess like first year, I've tested ESTP, which is the entrepreneur. And then I think weirdly enough, when I got into that business school environment, I started testing ISTP, which maybe it's because I was so sick and tired of people. I was like, oh my God, I just need some personal space. And then I reverted back to ESTP after that. So it's like all smooth and chill. But then I think quarantine made me flip to a J. Like literally, I was tired of people's shit. And like just honestly, that dictator came out. And I think that's still the place I'm at. Maybe I'll mellow out once finals are over, but I definitely feel that, executive persona coming on.
I agree. Like, maybe it's also like when you know for sure what you want in life. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it more influences you to like be kind of a dictator because you're like, I know exactly where I want to go. And so this is like how I'm going to get there. And I'm so assured. So like it sways you more towards a J.
Do you know where you want to go in life, Cindy?
Honestly, I would disagree. I didn't become a J because I wanted to. It's almost like I was forced to kind of take up that position. I feel like I'm the type of person where if I know someone is better or more capable, I immediately like beta out and I'm like, oh my God, you take the reins, like handle this shit. But as soon as I see like, for example, poor work ethic or like just terrible results, I get really triggered and I think I just muscle up, and that J is like, we're gonna do it this way.
Yeah. I think maybe that's why like I was a J in high school and then I didn't become a J in university.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's funny. Wow, we all have a J, like an EJ phase. Because the other one that I turned into more so is definitely ENTJ. And that's come out, it's reared its head in a few group projects too. And definitely kind of in the startup. Because, yeah, like you need to push a kind of vision or agenda when nothing else is getting done. Yeah. but it hurts, right? Yimin, like if you're if you're very touchy feelies, I don't know. At the end of the day, like you don't want to make people unhappy. Like all this conflict stuff. Like I don't mind debating, but like emotional conflict is still tough. We had to any like tough business decision or like decision where I don't know, you just have to make a tough decision. Really stresses me out. Or any team conflict, even though I'm definitely pretty aggressive and assertive. Yeah. How do we feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that if I know that I like was rude to someone and it hurt their feelings even a little bit, I will overthink that for like the entire day. And I will be like, why did I say that? Or like, why did I act that certain way to make that person feel like that? Like, I could have handled it much better. Like, why do I not think before I talk? Like, why am I the way that I am? And I like spiral. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, as a fellow non-F friend, I have no qualms about that type of shit. And like literally, I think that's one of the reasons that we talked about people think I'm like a cold bitch or I'm unapproachable is because I literally don't give a shit sometimes. I care about the people I care about, but then other people I'm like, I don't have energy for you.
That's fair. That's fair. I want to bring up two things from the Big Five. I know they're not here, but the Big Five, it's like ocean and two of the letters. One is agreeableness, A, and one is neuroticism, N. So agreeableness is very linked to like F, feeling, thinking, right? So there's a lot of correlations between them. MBTI is just like a lamer, more like memorable version of the Big Five. And so if you're really agreeable, that means you'll be liked really easily, but you also avoid conflict a lot. And then the neuroticism is the interesting part because the 16 personalities will have like a synonym for that. They call it T/A, turbulent and assertive. And neuroticism is usually seen as the worst of the Big Five because it's connected to like depression, anxiety, self-consciousness, lack of self-control. But it also means you can change your personality really fast. So you can context switch a lot. And that might mean you're less stable, basically more neurotic, but it means you can adapt really well in different situations. So yeah, that's something interesting.
I am both a turbulent and a neurotic. So, it really be like that.
So, okay, I took psychology like 3 years ago, but can you just give me a refresher on the Big Five? Like, for each five, like, is there a side that you sway more towards? And, like, is that how it works?
Yeah, so each letter under the Big Five has 5 subdomains that are related to it. How they did it was they did a review of the English language of like how we describe personality, and they kept grouping stuff together and running like statistical analysis until they arrived at these 5 letters, which describe like almost every facet of human personality. There's been recent changes, but that works pretty well. So, and how it's measured is against the general population. So it's like a bell curve. Yeah, it's like where you compare on these questionnaires relative to other people. I have a discussion question.
Okay. Yes.
I'm curious, like, is it a good thing to box people into here? Like, what do we think about that? Because I think one thing that's really alarming is that Myers-Briggs is used by a lot of businesses and consultants. So like when they use it, it's like a shorthand for knowing people and, all these things. But it also seems a bit problematic if you're just slotting someone into a thing. And there's always seen as like like the ENTJ is the highest earning MBTI. And it's seen as like the typical consultant, I think. And like, is that a good thing?
That's interesting. So at the company that I work at, they made us all take a similar personality test. It wasn't Myers-Briggs, but it was categorizing us into one of 4 personality types, similar to the one that we did at Ivy during HBA1. And then when you introduce yourself, like you say like, oh, like this is me, like what are you? And we do like kind of talk about that a little bit. And I think that it's an easy way to, on surface level, categorize someone, but obviously it doesn't tell you in depth what their values are, like what the actual meat of that person is. And I don't think that I really use it in a company professional sense to like understand someone. I think that one of the personality types that are there out of the 4 is a driver. So if I notice like someone is very heavily like driver, then that's something that I'll like put in the back of my brain, like, oh, like keep an eye out for that or be aware of it. But the other 3, I'm just like, okay, like whatever, like that might be the one that they scored, but it doesn't really tell me anything about that person. And maybe it's because the driver one is the most like linked to the Big Five, like the aggressiveness, whereas like the other 3 like names, it doesn't like directly link to one of the Big Five traits. So like I can't really categorize them as like something that's like core to them or their values. I don't think it's a bad thing that this exists. I don't think it's super harmful, to be honest. I think it's just like a tool, you know, that you can choose to use or not use, but obviously just like take it at face value.
Yeah, I think those four ones are interesting because even the 16 personalities are grouped by that in the 16 personalities thing, MBTI. You got analysts, diplomats, sentinels, and explorers. You can think of it as like the Hogwarts houses, right? The drivers are the Slytherins, which are the analysts. The diplomats are Hufflepuff, which is like the amiables, which are the then you have sentinels, which are like Ravenclaw. I think it's called analyst in the other one, and then finally you have the explorers, Gryffindor, expressives, and that's linked to chemistry a bit. Driver is testosterone, right? Like you want to win. It's like very aggressive, competitive. Diplomat, which is amiable, Hufflepuff, is estrogen. I think it's linked to, or maybe oxytocin, one of those, just linked to more very pro-social. Then you have serotonin for sentinels, very like calm, methodological, organized. And then you have explorers, dopamine, Gryffindor, right? Expressives. They're just out there having fun. They love doing new things, learn really fast, but they're flaky. And this underlines both Deloitte's personality tests and also like Ivy's and like a lot of other places. So yeah.
I think like all of these tests, like they're fun and whatsoever, but I put them in the same category as like, you know, like the like conflict test or like the love languages. Is like, it's nice to know. It's almost like a supplementary reading, but it's like not that worthwhile technically. Like I think like what Eamon said, when we do those tests, I only keep an eye out for things I should look out for. Like if someone tests really heavily on aggression or like super driver tendencies, like I am wary of that. So I almost like watch out for that, even though I am that low key. But like I just almost feel like it also doesn't really matter at the end of the day because people change depending on that situation, right? Like I might be very aggressive, but if I meet someone else like that is also super aggressive, I actually might bait it out. Like it depends on the situation.
Yeah, how about you? Like, what do you think, Anthony?
If it's good or not, I think once you don't treat it like the be all end all of personality, it's a good tool, especially when you're just meeting someone. But it's really easy to box someone into something, so got to keep it open. And then also there's a lot of other ways to get to know people, obviously. So like their values, right? Like their interests, hobbies, what they believe in. I think that stuff matters a lot more. It's just kind of harder to do. I think I can, within 30 minutes of meeting someone, I can typify them with like very high accuracy on this MBTI, just because I've done it so many times. And it's like, it only gets you somewhere. Yeah, I don't know. I've done it on a lot of dates. It's kind of funny. Like you...
Wait, do you do it with them? Like, and they confirm or deny?
Yeah. Oh my god, I feel so called out. But yeah, on probably like four or five dates, I've made them do it during the date because I'll write down my prediction after talking with them for a bit, and then like we'll see. So I've gotten it mostly right though. Mostly.
So we know who scores high also on aggression.
But each thing, by the way, maybe we can leave with this. Each Myers-Briggs has like an ideal love type.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
And there's been open research done that like correlates it a bit, and there's been like there's some statistical credibility to it, like 3 to 5% ish. It's very interesting.
Wow. Wait, so what's my ideal love type? I want to know.
You said you're ENFJ, right?
Yeah.
Usually E's attract I's, so you'd be with an I, introvert. N's attract N's because it's like communication, how you think, you need to be aligned. IN. F and T is like very variable. It's kind of up to you, right? F, T, who knows? If you're more leaning F, maybe you'll want someone who's T or on the balance. But then like if it's too different, you're going to fight a lot, I think. And then lastly, this is the funny one. You're a J. And so you'll want another J, but also the P's want J. So everyone just wants to J and everyone's sick of the P's. So like, that's
Even J's are hot commodities.
Out of the blue for you, I'd say INTP, I think, because you really like exploring and trying new things. So you need a P in your life. And then also, I think you'd want a T as well. Yeah, because you're on the borderline. So you can be the feelings. INTP.
Yeah, I want an intellectual.
Okay, on to you, Cindy. You said you're ESTJ.
Yeah.
Correspond to ISFP or J, which is like the artist, I think. Wow, what is ISFP? The adventurer. Oh, man.
Wow, she needs someone to take her out of her room, show her some new places.
Sorry, but this person is both introverted and feeling. I don't think I could deal with that.
Okay. Yeah, well, you could, like, that's the last two figures, or there's not that, there's not much there. You can kind of find whatever. I mean, if you find an ISTJ, you guys would make a lot of money, I guess, but like, I don't know about I don't know about how the feelings would go there. But yeah, that's about it, from the romance side. There's not a lot. It's very, variable, yeah. So.
Do you actually consider this when you're going on dates with people? Like, oh, like they're closely aligned with my ideal Myers-Briggs, or you don't really care about that?
I think it's more of like it's just a good hygiene to do. Just get to know people, I find. Oh God. Like,
instead of taking a bath for your dates, take an MBTI test.
Let's put it this way. If there's a certain type, I know I will not like them. And if there's a certain type, I tend to know that I will like them. Like, INFJ is, after the fact, I've made people kind of do it. It's just like kind of my type, as you could say, and it's fitted. It's really fitted. Whereas an S is like kind of a turn off. And yeah, I don't really like other extroverts. Extroverts are generally kind of boring.
Okay, so you just hate me, ENS. Okay, Anthony.
Romantically, like it'd never work out.
Yeah, we would be a terrible couple.
Yeah, but we could be friends.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I think like for me, I am the same way, but with astrology signs. And obviously there's less scientific backing to that, but like it's like a hygiene check. Like if someone is a specific sign that I know I could like get along with, I get really excited about it. And then if someone's like a specific sign that I know, like maybe
Virgo.
in the past I've been like
Virgo.
I've been like, oh, like then it's like me being a little cautious. So that's very, very interesting. I love that.
I think that's really funny that we're basing a lot of this, but like, have you guys heard about the blood types one, which is really popular in Asia? Like, they will literally ask people for their blood types, and that's even a smaller, I guess, section of like choices. You could be like A, B, or O. Like, there's a couple of choices, and honestly, I probably believe that a little bit more than other things, because biologically, your blood type does come out with like biological differences. Like, I think O type blood people are less likely to get heart disease or whatever. Like, there are biological differences, which is why I'm like, maybe blood types could impact personality. I think type A, everyone knows that type of personality. B is usually relaxed. AB is like the Gemini of personalities, really crazy. O, I think, is adventurous or something like that. I'm not that sure, but like people dating in Asia will ask to exchange like blood types and astro signs.
Wow, that's insane to me. I don't even know my own blood type. I need to go to my doctor and find out.
Yeah, I honestly don't know my own blood type either, and I feel like my mom has taken me to get that tested multiple times, but she always ends up forgetting, so I've just never known my blood type my entire life. But I think like along with MBTI, this is honestly just like a bit of fun, and like if you take this seriously, like that's super rough.
All right, that wraps up our episode with Anthony. Thank you so much for being our very first guest. I know I learned a lot from you in this episode, and I'm sure our listeners did too. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the follow button on Spotify or wherever you're listening. And if you didn't, then please send us a message and let us know some topics that you'd like to hear, and we'll do our very best to incorporate that in our future episodes. You can find us on Instagram at We Hate Small Talk. And until next time, bye!